Hi, welcome. Look, I'm back. Ready to talk about modulation. Ready to talk about the never-ending story. Yeah, that's right. Let's go back to 1984. We got this guy, Limahl. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it. It's an anagram of his real last name, Hamill. Christopher Hamill, Limahl. I guess he was in some British band called Kajagoogoo. Is that real? No, it's okay. I'm sorry, Kajagoogoo fans. Limahl, Never-Ending Story, 1984. Let's chart it out a little. Basically, this song just has a lot of breathtaking modulations and the very clear connection to, the title, the whole idea of the song about moving through dream worlds of magic and all that. So, Giorgio Moroder, not the first time he's showed up on this Patreon page, probably won't be the last time. Produced this song, 1984, Limahl, Never-Ending Story. Fades in the key of C. Look at what you see in the key of C. We got this nice little progression, C chord, go into a G chord, go into an F chord, go into an A minor chord to a G chord, and back. So let's call this A. It's kind of the intro, but it's going to serve some other roles too. There's some nice suspensions in here. What are suspensions? Watch the rest of the episodes in this podcast, and you'll find out what I'm talking about when I say suspensions. Oops, that's a mistake. There's a D here, and then a C half note and a B half note. There's our first suspension. This C was a consonant part of the C major chord, but when we get into a G chord, the C is a fourth that was held over and then resolves down on a weaker part of a beat. It was prepared, suspended, and resolved. We can note that in our analysis by putting this little 4-3 here if we really want. I guess I do really want. Then we have another suspension type thing, but some people don't call this a suspension, some do. Basically, we hit an F chord, but at first it has a D in it, the same D that was left over from the measure before. Just like the C was left over and resolved down to B, this D was left over and resolved down to C, all while we still have this A down here. And we can denote that 6-5. We don't have to decide if it's a suspension. The reason some people wouldn't count it as a suspension is because the sixth isn't consonant. So some people might even call this like a 2-6 chord going to a 4 chord. That's where, for me, Roman numerals get a little too big for their britches. And a normal old 6 and 5 chord, and I'll finish this voice leading to show you. I'm pretty sure this voice leading is exactly what you're hearing. These are all half notes. And then it breaks back down to 2 voices up here. Just the keyboard part. I just wanted to show you it. Why? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Let's listen to it again. This fades in and that becomes the intro. Or the intro also becomes where the first verse happens. Turn around. Look at what you see. In her face. There's this stuff about her face. I think it's important because, hey, there she is. Right? All of a sudden, there she is. The her they're talking about sounds like is who pops in right here. This is also where we get our first key change. Super direct key change. There's no preparation at all. We just suddenly are in the key of E flat. So suddenly we have an E flat, a really simple progression in the key of E flat. I'm just going to write it down here. We have a 1 chord for 2 bars, and then we have a 4 chord for a bar and a 5 chord for a bar. There would be 1, 4, 5. Normal people lingo, we had a C chord here, a G, an F, an A minor, and a G. And here we had an E flat chord, an A flat chord and a B flat chord. Just for you normal people. Yeah, so here she is. Right here on this, let's call this the B part. And let's keep track of our keys especially. So we were in the key of C, and then we got to the key of E flat for the B part. Now, this little thing with the melody I want to look at here. So I'm just going to kind of pencil in a little bit of the melody. And I'm going to use a record number of colors here. Boo, 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 boo. Boo, 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 boo. Something like that. I'm just like kind of penciling it in. And then suddenly it busts into two, right? There's this bottom voice and this top voice. Da-na-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na-na. Basically wiggles around, but it basically does this bit of work. Like it's on the E flat and the G. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Goes up to an upper neighbor and back. So that would have been the F and an A flat. Na-na-na-na-na-na. And then back to the E flat and G. So it's like these were still kind of there. Da 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 na 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 na. It just works its way down from E flat and G to D and F. But the second time around, na 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 na, never ending. They join forces here. It's a special little moment in the melody. If you listen, they're in thirds, and then suddenly they're in unison. Interface, the mirror of your dreams. Talking about a dream world. Woo! There she is. She's kind of the personification of like your imagination or your dream world. Or maybe she's Princess Ozma. I don't know. See, right there on never is the answer to our never ending. When they got to the never ending of never, they quit being in thirds, started being in unison, and they land right on a thing that sounds just like the A part again. And they hit this story. I'm going to put this little bracket here so we remember this little motive. This is what they say when they say story, because it keeps coming back. Now listen to this A part. Listen to the bass line. Look, it went C, A, and then F, A, G, instead of C, G, F, A, G. See, it's kind of the same, but it's kind of not. So I'm going to call it A prime. Now it went back to the old way. See that? Let's go back a little bit. Story. That's what is different about A prime from A. Then it does A again. Both as an intro and as a verse again. Reach the stars, fly above the sea. Dream a dream. And what you see will be. Hey, and there's that imagination again. B part. And they come together again and say story again on that A prime part with a slightly different bass line. Ooh, and there's a big new thing, but let's just catch up on our keys. So we were in C, we went to E flat, back to C, still in C, back to E flat, back to C, bouncing around between C and E flat. Those are pretty distantly related keys. Look what just happened though, right as I quit. All of a sudden, this story, just A prime happened again. Now we have to call it A double prime. But now, all of a sudden, instead of being in the key of C, it just all of a sudden just pops up into the key of E flat. We're used to this move now, but this is a different way of doing it. And then it goes like A flat, C, B flat. So that in the key of E flat, which we just suddenly popped to, I'm circling my keys, in the key of E flat, story. Notice we have that little motive again. This is like our main little, I've been doing those in red. Story, story. Just like it was up there, but now it's in a new key. Same exact progression. So 1, 5, 4, 6, 5. Let's go back a little. So here we are on the second time we're through this A prime. Back to C, we were in E flat, we got to C. Now all of a sudden, it's like we redid it and now we're in E flat. And now listen, all of a sudden we're gonna be in the key of G. No prep at all. We have a slightly different progression now. We go from a 1 chord to a 6 chord, to a 3 chord, to a 4, to a 5, to a 1. Let's call that C. In part C of the song, just all of a sudden there's like this sitar sounding thing, and it's a solo. We're in the key of G. We have a 1 chord, 6, 3, 4, 5, 1. Sitar. Think about the cultural meaning of sitar. You know, especially we're back in the 80s. Things are a little less culturally sensitive. Sitar means like exotic, right? We went to a brand new key. We've never been in the key of G. We've been bouncing around C and E flat, which is weird enough to begin with. Those are a weird key relationship. Now all of a sudden we went to the key of G. After the sitar solo, this C part happens again, but it changes key again, and all of a sudden we are in B flat. And we're like, let me write it up here. B flat, G minor, D minor, E flat, F, B flat. This is the guitar solo. Just out of nowhere, there's just suddenly this guitar solo. And then we get just these 2 little bars of G. Let's finish this down here. Which is the dominant to go all the way back to our original A part and get back in the key of C. This is basically what we would call a retransition. It's 2 bars worth. A retransition is what we call it in classical music, where you've been wandering around to a bunch of different keys, and then you set up the final return of your home key. Okay, let's talk through that. Back to the beginning. Let's go back to our lyrical analysis in this last minute and a half. So we're talking about imagination. Imagination comes in personified by this other singer. There she is, that's the her and she. We just suddenly went from C to E flat, direct modulation. They're singing like linked together but in thirds, turn into unison. I like to think of this part like he brought the imagination world back into the everyday world, right? E flat is kind of the imagination key, and the narrator brings it back to C with him. He's trying to infuse his magic with a little imagination, y'all. That's what the movie is about. And then these key changes, I'm not as easily able to explain. We were used to going from C to E flat, so that's pretty normal. And I think this just helps it sound like we got somewhere different. Notice how this sitar solo started with that little story motive. Here's one thing I can say. The relationship of G to B flat is like the relationship of C to E flat. we go on this wild journey, bring it all back home. Bring it all back home, y'all. Bye.